an average doctor profile in the age bracket of mid-40 in private practice, which may very well encompass a lot of number of population of clinicians out there with very little asset base, without everything else, in an isolated manner looking at that. Superannuation probably will become one of the most relevant, appropriate vehicles for retirement planning with the highest efficacy, arguably. And often in our observation, when doctors come to us for consultations and examining their situation financially, that is acutely neglected.
A smaller balance and a shorter time frame. We need to have a structured way to accumulate or build this balance or build this wealth within an environment which is consistently taxed and brings benefit not only now but in retirement, because they'll come in, they see us and they'll have an industry fund based superannuation. And a typical industry fund superannuation will be invested in what we call a strategic asset allocation. That might work well for some clients, but what we find with our clients who have a shorter time frame, they need to be invested in a way that can adjust to the markets and find opportunities so that then we can build that wealth and also protect the capital at the same time.
And to adopting a contrarian investment philosophy, or rather an investment strategy that is dynamic, simply because in our observations, some of our doctors cannot ride a market drawdown. To that point, remaining invested at all times may not necessarily be a good thing for them. The modern science and the investment solution are now so advanced that we can design and recommend solutions for superannuation environment with great level of accuracy to act in a dynamic way, to understand and be prepared on how to react to the next pandemic, do not necessarily ride the market drawdowns and the market volatilities. So we adopt a highly skilled approach, an experienced approach to the very serious issue of acutely low super balances amongst our clients, what contribution strategy they need to adopt to be able to build that up, and then the very fundamental question of how they need to invest those retirement monies. And that's very, very different to the stock standard solution of an industry fund.
So PJ, you touched on the pandemic, and one of the key things I saw during the pandemic was a lot of funds went negative, obviously, but some funds fared better than others. Something to do with the way that the asset allocation or style of investment is used. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
A very well crafted and designed portfolio is it makes allowance and allocation for what we call capital preservation. And to that point, Derek, it simply means that if you're always fully invested in a market drawdown, you really have two options: hope, hold, and pray for the market to bounce, which in fact, hypothetically in a very long time, that may be the case, or have the ability to not to ride that market fall. And that is exactly what dynamic asset allocation enables us to manage our clients' retirement monies in an expert way. Because if you incur a loss and if you don't have enough time for the market to do what it does to recoup that loss, often incrementally, for every percent of loss, you have to take twice as much risk to recover your retirement monies. Industry funds are designed for average people who happen to be in an average profession considerably for a long time. It's not going to work for a doctor that inherently earns pre-tax money with a complex requirement of cash flow management in their life, and then bringing this back to a contribution strategy, and then all of this needs to happen in the span of a decade. This is why they need a specialist advice.